This is Stephen Alexander for another BSFS. Book review. Wow, Harlem is shaking tonight. We've covered Jeff Carroll's works before on the show, and so I figured I'd check in with him to see what else he had in his library. He usually focuses on sci-fi adventure, but I heard recently that he had a disaster survival book out as well. Lo and behold, the Harlem Shake series. Since I have a full queue until episode 150, I figured I would get around to at least the first novel in the series. Since it's a survival book, I'm expecting the following genre tropes that I've noticed in the movies. Number 1, unnecessarily long intro sequence. Number 2, natural disasters go into super mode and break all sorts of natural laws. Number 3, everyone loses their damn minds except for the main hero. Number 4, people die dumbly. Number 5, everyone except for the main hero and the team become wild looters or their worst personality traits take over. Yeah, there are more, but my throat is sore. Stupid coronavirus. Who coughed in my beer? Set in Harlem, just like the original song, what kind of locorita is this? Main character Kenny is working at showtime at the Apollo as a Category 5 hurricane is coming into the city. People around him are getting ready, thinking this is going to be worse than Hurricane Sandy. But this is the Harlem Shake, which means an earthquake hits Harlem. The last earthquake to hit Harlem was a tiny 2.4 back in 2001. So somehow, some way, don't ask me how, the approaching hurricane causes the 125th Street fault to generate 8.0 magnitude quake. Harlem and much of the city get leveled by the quake and the aftershocks, forcing Kenny, his ex-girlfriend Deidre, his roommate Ant, and a few others from around Harlem to find a way off the island before the storm floods the city. Well, more than the Hudson already did. Kenny doesn't have a lot of training, but his street smarts and general passion for the Harlem area help guide his efforts to rescue as many people, annoying as they may be, from the storm. Some people even thought that earthquake was a bombing. That's New Yorkers for you. All those universities there and they still dumb as What did I like about the story? It's a disaster and survival novel, so you get a good smattering of the tropes, especially the whole quote, anyone can die, unquote trope. And there was a lot of that to the point where I felt it cheapened the story, especially when the helicopter crashed at the end of the story. Since I'm not a New Yorker, I'm not as familiar with the history and microculture of Harlem, so when Kenny or the narrator discusses places and people in Harlem before the earthquake hits, it gives me a warm nostalgic feeling and a sense of hometown pride. I think including the hometown trivia and important Harlem institutions along with the character motivations really fleshed out the story and why they took the actions they tried regardless of whether it resulted in their deaths. What didn't I like about the story? There were so many grammatical mistakes that I wondered if the editor died in the earthquake. They were pretty distracting at times, but not as distracting as the plotline. The idea is an approaching hurricane can wake up an inactive fault line like the one under Harlem. I have never heard of this before, so I performed some background research. Here's what I found. One way this could happen is through the hurricane lowering the air pressure above the fault enough for it to slip. Another way is the hurricane causes stormquakes, or seismic activity on continental shelves by the action of ocean waves. The third way is when a hurricane, when over the fault, can affect the topography/landscape through heavy rain. Mudslides remove mass from the fault and cause a slip, or add mass through rain seeping on the ground and cause a slip weeks later. So, now we come to the key part. Can an approaching hurricane trigger an 8.0 earthquake in a fault line not known for strong earthquakes? I'm gonna go with no. Cool story though. My final issue with the Harlem Shake is the zigzagging narrative. While it was good to include the helicopter and the associated characters, the ending involving both group of characters felt wasted. My recommendation. Good story gets stuck in the mud of cheap deaths and zigzagging narrative and bad grammar. 3 out of 5 stars. It'd make a good action movie, which Jeff Carroll seems interested in making these days. Someone call Tyler Perry. He can play Deidre if he really wants to. Finally today, I'd like to say a quick word about Johans, a graphic novel series by Paul Louise Julie. It's an Afrofuturist sci-fi and historical adventure of kickin' art and an interesting plot. I got it off Google Books, and you should be able to find the whole series there too. That's all for this week. Next time will be our episode 150 extravaganza. See ya.